Hey everyone, Steven here, and today I'm reviewing the Maono E2 audio interface with single mic bundle. Like any of my microphone reviews, I'll be using the microphone for the whole video, with this one being a little bit different because I will be adjusting the audio. I usually don't do any adjustments to the audio, but because this has the audio interface here, I'll adjust this to show what it can do. I don't have an audio interface that has as many options as this does that I use with my other microphones. And with those, when I do the reviews, I don't actually adjust anything in post because I want it as that raw audio. With this, it's going to be a little bit different because I have so many options with this. I do want this to sound as good as I can get it. Right now, I'm going middle of the road, so this is what this would sound like if you actually just pulled this out of the box. The only difference is I have the regular reverb preset and I have denoise turned on, but those are just two buttons that you would hit really quick. For this, I do have the unboxing kind of rolling right now to show you what this looks like as you're actually getting it out of the box. And then with all of my reviews, I cover the specs first, then I talk about the good, bad, and gray area stuff, which are things you may or may not care about before wrapping everything up. With that being said though, let's get into the specs. All right, to start with the specifications here, I want to showcase an image off of the Maono website listing for this product. It's just easy in terms of how they lay this out. So the data transmission here is USB type C. The frequency response is 20 Hertz to 20 kilohertz. The total harmonic distortion is less than 0.05% at 1 kilohertz. And then the headset output power is 20 milliwatts at 32 ohms. Sample rate is 48 kilohertz at 16 bits. The wireless connection is Bluetooth 4.2. Battery type is a lithium polymer. And then the battery capacity here is 2000 milliamps. Charging parameter 5 volt at 1 amp. The charging time is 3 hours. The battery life for this is 8 hours with the highest keypad brightness. And then it gives you the dimensions there. For inputs on the back of the audio interface, you will find the power adapter, USB Type-C for data transmission to computer or tablet, 2 live output ports for smartphones, 1 audio monitor for studio, aux in for smartphone, a 3.5 millimeter mic input, the mic 1 settings, which has condenser at 40 decibels and dynamic at 50 or 60 decibels. You have the TRS audio cable input for instruments, and last, the XLR condenser mic input. You have the power button and lights button on the back also. On the front, you will find 2 3.5 millimeter inputs for audio monitoring. Inside the box, you will find the audio interface, condenser microphone, metal pop filter, USB A to C charging cable, 2 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks, a set of monitor earbuds, the user manual, and a setup instruction sheet. Switching over to the microphone specs, this is a cardioid polar pattern mic with a frequency response of 20 Hz to 18 kHz, a sensitivity of negative 34 decibels plus or minus 3 decibels, a maximum sound pressure level of 140 decibels, a signal to noise ratio of 75 decibels, and last, this requires 48 volt phantom power, which the audio interface can provide via the XLR cable. I don't know the exact threading. I believe it is 5/8 inch, but with this, you could actually mount this on a microphone arm as well if you wanted to, instead of using the stand that it comes with. All right, so now I want to showcase everything with the audio interface, and you can actually hear some of the adjustments in real time with this, and I'll explain a little bit with some of these what they actually do. Starting on the left-hand side here, we have the aux output. So this is actually adjusting if you had music playing through 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, so the auxiliary cable there. Up top, you actually have the first 3, which are going to be adjusting the low, mid, and high for the audio if you're recording. So looking at the low here, if I turn the gain all the way up to 10 decibels, this is with it all the way up, and then we're going to turn this down slowly, and then this is the low at negative 10 decibels, and then we'll come back to center. Mid, we're going to turn this up, and this will be all the way up right now. And then we'll slowly turn this all the way down, and then this is completely off, coming back to center. And then this is going to be high. We'll turn this all the way up, plus 10 decibels, and then we will slowly turn this down until it is completely off right now, and then we will come back to center. After that, the next three knobs here. Instrument, if you need to increase the volume or the gain on your instrument, you can do that. You can change pitch after that. This is really fun to do.
So if I turn it to the right, this is going to be high pitch here. So I'm going to kind of sound like a cartoon character.
And then if I go the opposite direction,
now I will sound like Darth Vader with this. So really cool if you're doing streams
and you want to kind of mess with people here. And then this knob right here is for the monitoring output. So if you had your headphone set plugged into this and you want to monitor the audio, you can turn that all the way up. I typically have it up high so I can hear what I'm actually kind of outputting through this. After that, the next one is output, and this is for the microphone here. So if I turn this up, we're going to hear the gain increase, and then as I turn it back down, it'll slowly go. If I turn it all the way down, when I hit that, you won't actually hear anything, so it kind of turns it off there. After that, we're going to go down to this bottom corner. So right here, 48 volts. So this is for my phantom power for my XLR microphone that I'm using right now. So if I turn that off, it actually won't have any power, so it won't play. Next to that is Bluetooth. So if you want to actually utilize Bluetooth, this should be illuminated. And then up here in this opposite corner, this is flashing right now because I could connect this to Bluetooth if I wanted to. And then we have our battery indicating lights over here as well. These lights, and I've covered this already, but these will actually show you 25% increments in terms of the battery life that it does have, and it is plugged in, which I can see right here. After that, we have the volume or the gain for the microphones. We have mic 1 and mic 2. Remember, with this, I can do the XLR microphone, and then I can do a USB Type-C microphone with this. So you could have two mics hooked up to this. It would just be two separate types of microphones. But with this, if I increase this gain, you'll hear that increase, and then I can bring it back down. I don't want to blow this out right now because all you're going to hear is that sharp increase in volume. After that, we have our sound pad here. So looking at our sound pad, so these top ones here, we have our three little options. I'm going to play one really quick. If I click on that,
1 2 1 2 check check
you'll
check.
hear me
check 1 2 1
saying
2
that.
check,
And then
check,
if I
check.
hit the loop button, it will loop that, and these can go up
Check
to
1 2
1
1 2
minute.
check check check.
And then it will
check,
just
1 2
constantly
1 2
loop.
check check check.
And I hit it again, and it'll turn off. If I hold the button down, eventually it'll flash a bunch, and it will erase that. After that, if I hold it down for a couple seconds, it'll do a slower flash, and then that means you can record. Looking at our sound pad, I can push that,
Sound pan,
and it will play whatever is recorded on the sound pad. I can push the next one. It'll do the same thing. It'll play that recording, however long that's going to be, and I believe that is up to a minute as well. And then I can hit the last one. Now, I have the pad volume turned all the way up, which is the next knob over here. If I turn this down, the volume on these will go down. And I do want to say you can't loop these. So the bottom 8 that you have, you can't actually loop these, just the top 3. But I can turn the pad volume up here, and then I can change depth after that. So if I turn the depth up, this will adjust the depth to whatever input I have, whatever microphone, or if I'm doing an instrument, you can change this as well. And turn that all the way back down. And then if we look at the decay time, I can turn the decay time all the way up, and then I can turn this all the way back down. We have our reverb presets, and what I've noticed is that you have to have something on. So I can change this, and it usually lets you know what it's changed to. So it'll actually tell you, especially if you're monitoring the audio. I can change it to the next one here. We have the next reverb preset. Next one. And then I think we cycle back through. So well, we got one more here, and then after that, there we go. So after that, we have sidechain, music only, dry wet, loop back, and denoise here. And usually I actually turn denoise on just because it does help quite a bit with eliminating any type of ambient noise around you on this. Looking back at our presets here, we have studio, KTV, church, hall, valley. Sidechain mode can be activated to lower the volume of background music and turn up the host voice. So that's if you're talking or streaming or something like that, you can actually put that on. Music only is going to remove any vocals in the background music, and it's going to be more like karaoke with this, which is really cool. After that, we have dry wet mode. Activate dry mode. Indicator light will be turned on. Only mic input audio will be recorded. If we do wet mode, the light will be turned off. All reverberated and background audio will be recorded and exported to output devices. Next, we have loopback mode. Turning this on will allow the Monocaster to record the system audio from the USB-C input. If turned off, you can still hear the system audio from monitoring, but it will not be recorded. And then we have our denoise that I mentioned, and this actually just creates cleaner audio with this. And last, I want to cover the auto tune here. It's in the center. It is a touch button. So notice that when I push this, the reverb is going to turn off. And with this, we can cycle to different keys with this. Now, the auto tune here, it's really only going to be apparent when you're singing, which I'm not a singer, but you'll notice it a little bit if you're talking. But it's really when you're actually trying to sing that you would notice this auto tune much at all. Otherwise, right now, you're not going to notice it much. But again, you have the different keys that you could actually put this in, and then take note that the reverb gets turned off. You can use these other buttons, but you can't actually use the reverb with this. And the last thing I do want to cover is that if you actually change the depth here, so if I'm changing the depth and utilizing the auto tune, this is going to affect the auto tune as well. So I can turn that all the way up and all the way down. So this is going to be all the way up, and then we'll turn this all the way back down. And then decay time, this will affect it as well. I can turn that all the way up, and then we can turn this all the way back down. We can go both of these all the way up, and we can see how this does. And then we can turn them both all the way back down. So hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on what all the different buttons on this actually do and what you would use them for. All right, so now that I've covered the specs and some of the functions that you will find on the board, let's talk about what I like, starting with the overall functionality of this audio interface. It has a lot going on with it, and the options here are plenty. There are functions for streamers, podcasters, musicians, and content creators. If you're on a budget and still need a lot of function for whatever you do, this will definitely work. For streamers, this would be really good in terms of the interface because you can actually morph your voice to make it sound funny, or you can use the sound pad to have different sound effects or catchphrases. I could see someone using sound bits from Dr. Disrespect, some TV shows or TikToks, and they can actually use this to have fun with their streams. Messing around with the auto tune is really fun also and gives you plenty of control for the key you want to be in. But as I mentioned earlier, you actually have to make sure that you're singing with this. It's not something that you would notice if you were just talking. I used to do a podcast years ago with a friend, and the amount of equipment we needed with the microphones and audio interface was a lot to lug around, and this would have actually helped us simplify our setup while giving us extra options that we didn't have with the audio and the sound pad. The downside for podcasters would be that there's only one XLR input. So if you have multiple people on the podcast, you'll need to be running an XLR microphone and then a USB Type-C microphone. Either that or you're just having two people talk into the one microphone. So you're going to be a little bit closer when you're doing that. And this could also be an issue if you're a musician and you're going to have two people singing. Either you're going to be singing into the one XLR microphone or you're going to be running two. One of those is going to be the USB Type-C microphone. Speaking of musicians, I am not a musician, so it'll be hard for me to speak on that end, but reviews from people on this product on Maono's website talk about the Bluetooth capability, making it easier to play music while they actually sing over it, and the amount of control they had to adjust the sound was something that they really liked. I like the built-in rechargeable battery, and I was surprised it could power the XLR microphone with this. The manual says the battery can last 8 hours, but it doesn't specify if that's with the XLR microphone. It just says that this is with the highest keypad brightness, but that's it. Last, the product is really light and easy to travel with. It comes with almost all of the cables you will need. It only has one USB Type-C cable. That's what you can use to charge this. I do wish it gave you two. So you had one for the input to a computer and then one to charge it. So luckily I had my own, but I would have liked the extra USB Type-C cable. The length to all the cables though is long, which is really good. So they're not short, which I think would cause an issue and make these harder to use. Next, let's cover what I don't like about this. And I really have two things. And the first one is that the sound pads are a little finicky. They don't seem to respond all the time when trying to record something new in terms of a sound with this. They work most of the time when pressing them to replay the sound, but it can be a process to record something. I wish the sound pads could loop also and not just the ABC inputs. So in general, I wish they felt a little more responsive and that recording sounds was easier. The next thing, which is the last thing here, is that the interface is light and easy to travel with, which I said I like, but I do wish this came with a traveling case. I'm worried I'm going to scuff this up easily, and having a case would have been a nice touch and eased my worries about that. Last, let's cover the gray area stuff, which are things you may or may not care about, starting with the fact that this only has the one XLR input. I really do wish this would have had one more. It would have been a nice touch here. The issue that you would run into, though, with that is that when you have the one XLR input, it gives you the options to make all these adjustments. If you had two, you would actually have to increase the size of the board or have some type of switch so that you could actually switch back and forth between the two and then make those adjustments. So I think in general, when you look at these other boards, again, I mentioned that I did a podcast at one point. The board that we had was really big because we had 3 or 4 different inputs, and all of those had the corresponding knobs that you find on this same interface for adjusting the audio. Again, this would make it so that you would need this board to be a lot bigger. So there is a trade out that they kind of did with this, but it's one of those things you got to think about what's really your intent when using this. So if you don't need multiple people speaking with a microphone, they need their own, then this should be just fine for you. Next, the sound pad doesn't seem to get very loud, but I'm actually not using this with external speakers. I'm just using this to record in Adobe Premiere Pro. With external speakers, you would have more control over the sound levels with the sound pads, but adjusting the sound pad level all the way up for recording to a PC or streaming, it just might not be loud enough out of the box, so you may need to adjust this via software. Last here is the microphone, which is okay, but not great. If you already have a really good microphone, you're probably going to want to use that instead of this. The good news is with this that you actually don't have to buy the bundle. You could actually just buy the audio interface for $129, which is $40 cheaper than the bundle. So it kind of lets you know the quality of the microphone here. It's about a $40 mic. But if you have your own and it is good quality, just keep that in mind. If you're on a really tight budget and you just need this and you need the microphone and you're not going to shell a ton of money out for a microphone just yet, it will work. It's fine for that. It's just not the highest quality. The good news is, because you do have the audio interface, you can adjust this and actually make it sound better than if this was just stock. If this was just the stock microphone and I was using it without an audio interface, I don't think this is something that I would personally purchase. But because I have so much control with the audio interface, you can make this sound a lot better. I think for singers, though, this is going to be something to really consider. For podcasters, and if you're actually a streamer, this should be just fine. Like I said, if you don't have a microphone that you're going to use, the microphone here is going to be fine. But if you're a singer, my concern would be that if you are singing, you're hitting higher notes, it may cause distortion. The just audio quality with this may not be to your liking or your standard with this. So just something to think about. So in conclusion, this is a great entry-level audio interface with features for everyone. Just make sure you will actually need them. And if you already have a good microphone, I would say just buy the audio interface and use the microphone that you have. I'll have a link for this in the description. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comment section. If you like the video, hit the like button for me. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.